Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the RuneQuest rules by Chaosium Incorporated. This actual play is performed by adults and in an adult setting. Strong language, mature scenes, and rune magics are on the way. As this is our Glorantha, we will remind listeners that it may vary from the one you already know and love. And now, on to the show. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Old Ways podcast. I'm your storyteller this evening, Michael Diamond. My pronouns are he, him, and we will be playing RuneQuest. I have one of our RuneQuest players with us, another going through their initiation, their understandings and ordeals as they become adults. And I'm joined by a player. Player, please introduce yourself and tell us who you're playing.
I am Morgan, and I play Elara, daughter to Keldon and Ariana of Hillbase Stead, and our pronouns are she, her.
Fantastic. So at the top of the show, as I like to do with all of these episodes, I'm going to remind our listeners, those of us on YouTube or those of you on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you're getting this at, I want to remind you that this is a mature show and the content and material here does have mature themes. And so if those themes are something you might be concerned about, check the episode notes for any content warnings and then continue listening or make whatever choice you feel is best. And as always, our Glorantha will vary. We are looking for maximum game fun. Those will always inform our choices. We're going to raise the curtain tonight in a field, a place that frankly, Elara knows fairly well. Tending the fields with your father has been a daily occurrence for, well, since you can remember. You walked among all the fields here in the Vale time and time again to make sure that crops get sowed, to make sure crops get harvested, and to understand what it means to build a sustainable existence for the rest of the Hairborn. Your stead is made up of 3 or 4 different nuclear families, and you all work a plot of land. The cotters at the edges assist you with any number of beasts of burden or hogs, specifically pigs, and then any other herd animals. So it isn't surprising for you to be out in the field working and tilling and getting in what the work that you need to get in on any given day. You haven't seen Finn in a day or two. It's been a couple of weeks since Janira was married in that wonderful ceremony. And for the past few days, it's been very hard to put a finger on it, but you have just not felt right. Either your clothes haven't fit very well, or you get nauseous at weird times during the day. Food just hasn't tasted right. Your mother's been very careful to make sure that there isn't any sort of strange spirit around you, or perhaps a sickness wandering their way through any of the gardens that you might have picked up on. But barring that, you can't really put a finger on what's wrong. Your mother watches you at meal times, especially at evening. And while you're here out in the field working, you feel another wave of this nausea pass through you. And you have to stop and just find a way to let it pass over you. It just doesn't this time.
I've got both of my hands on my knees, and I'm knelt over and just trying to take some deep breaths through my in my nose and out my mouth. Try to help with that feeling of nausea. If it's not going to pass, I'm going to find my mother to see if there's any remedies she might be able to give me, herbal or otherwise.
You turn to head back to the longhouse where your mother is, and your abdomen starts to cramp up right below your navel. And as that pain begins, you hear a voice in your ear. It's a woman's voice, and you hear her say,
"It's time. It's your turn."
There's no one around you.
I start to panic a little if there's nobody around me, and just kind of thinking to myself, time for what? I'm not ready. I'm not prepared.
You hustle back to the longhouse. You continue to have pain in your abdomen. It spurs your feet to move you faster. You get into the longhouse, you push the door aside, and there's this space where everyone enters to before they walk down the spaces here towards their own private areas. And when you look down at the floor here, you watch as the floor wavers up and then back down. And that's when you first realize that you need to grab onto something because your balance is going.
I grab on for the nearest wall or counter or whatever, table.
You grab a wall, eventually grabbing a table as you work your hands down to try to steady yourself. The door opens behind you, and you hear your mother's voice say over your shoulder, "Elara, what's wrong?"
Mother, I don't know what's going on. I just feel really sick. I feel this pain in below my stomach. I don't know what's going on.
She puts a comforting hand on your shoulder. "All right, come and lie down here." You can feel the peace that your mother can exude. She has a well-trained voice for yelling at children, but also comforting them when necessary. And she takes you into a private space. Not your bed, but one she has used before for infirm or members of the Longhouse that perhaps need special attention. And when you sit down on the bed, it feels damp.
I look down.
Your mother looks down with you, just follows your gaze. "What's wrong?"
I don't know.
Your mother hums for a moment. "I see. Stand up."
I stand up.
You wobble to your feet for a second. She steadies you with a hand. "Take this," turns to the table nearby and gives you a damp rag. She says, "Make sure that everything is clean." You have no idea what she's talking about.
Like my armpits?
"No, dear. I believe your blood has come."
Oh, okay. I mean, I know we've talked about this. I guess I just didn't think it would be like this.
When you investigate things, sure enough, your mother was right. The evidence is all over the washcloth she's given you. She says, "Sit down here. I'll prepare something. No one will bother you." Your head starts to hurt.
Oh, okay. I could use some rest.
You say that, "I could use some rest," and you lay down for a second, and moments later you are asleep. You lose consciousness. You're woken by voices. They sound like the voices, at least one of them does sound like the voice you heard in the field. When you open your eyes, the space that your mother had you in has several other women from the Longhouse in it. One of them has a small cup, a little earthenware cup that clearly Finn's father probably made. There is a beverage in it. Steams a little. Your mother helps you sit up. "Come, dear."
Mother, what's everybody doing here?
It is a very special time for you. They hand you this warm beverage. Drink this. It will help.
Well, I start drinking it, and how does it taste to me?
It is bitter. Very bitter. It tastes like tree bark.
Wonderful. Yeah, I start drinking it, and this mother. No.
No arguments. Drink.
All right. I finish it up as quickly as possible. We'll try not to taste it.
It is very difficult to keep down, but you do so. You get very drowsy. Again. And the cup wavers in your hand a little, and you set it on the nearby table. And you feel your body fall back into the bed. And then you see yourself fall back into the bed a few moments later. Almost as if there's a part of you that was already asleep. The next conscious moment you have is far different. The space that you're in is cooler. It's as if the sun has gone down. There is no fire in this room, and so your body, the perspiration that you must have had, sort of clings to your skin. You remember having dreams. You were climbing one of the mountains in the Vale. You remember several of your friends were with you. You had some important thing that you were doing. And you just remember telling yourself that you had to keep climbing and you had to keep going. But that dream, it fractures when you wake up. It unravels like a simple piece of paper. Around you now are an emptiness, a solitude, but for but a moment. Your mother enters, but she does not do so alone. With her, you see a handful of spectral beings, spirits, women of many ages and sizes, old, middle-aged, the age of your mother. They come in as perhaps a groups of ducks might, all together, all beaming with beautiful and patient energy. Your mother reaches both of her hands out and says, "Take my hands, Elara."
I do. I reach out and grab her hands.
When you reach out and grab her hands, you see the surrounding spectral women reach through your mother, her body. They match up their hands with your mother's hands. And when you take your mother's hands, you feel the sensation of taking many additional hands. They pull you to your feet. One of them says, "You must come with us." They walk you out into the longhouse and directly outside. They lead you, surrounding you in a protective way, all the way to a place you did not believe you would go. You've been to the Riddle before. You've been outside on its grounds. You've listened to older women bring praise to Ernalda during holy days and high holy days. You have remembered the times being segmented from the men of the Vale and being in your own space, but as a child kept a bit beyond the space. Many mysteries happened outside the Riddle, but these women walk you directly toward it. And there, the doorway, that stone, square, open portal waits. Alongside it, Morganath, draped in a simple robe, watches you approach. Morganath is a figure in your community who clearly gets equal amounts of respect and fear. Struck blind many, many seasons ago, Morganath's vision is always clear. And there isn't a man or woman in this village that does not respect her for her wisdom or her power. When brought before her, these women and your mother who surround you, they remove your bedclothes and they wash you with strong, cold mountain water. It is enough to wake the dead, your mother says.
I'm shivering, no doubt.
Indeed. You stand there, and they anoint you with a tree bark and grass incense. They allow it to flood over your body. You see your mother has woven mountain lilies into a circlet. She places it on top of your head. Morganath's eyes never blink and continue to stare at you, but a short distance away. She steps forward. We must journey in. Your eyes flick to the opening, the Riddle, the place of burial for all Heraborn women, the place no Heraborn men are allowed. It has been a place of mystery for all of your years. You see the fierce carving of Babista Gore on the side of the entrance. Not in there, Morganath says. She leans in close and places her fingers, weathered, older fingers, on your abdomen, just below your navel. In here, to the source of your power. She turns, and she walks unflinchingly into the Riddle. Your mother thrusts a steaming cup of tea into your hands. Drink for strength.
I drank it because I'm sure at this point I'm probably pretty dehydrated.
You drink. It does offset a little of the mountain water you were washed with, but not much.
Does it taste better than the tree bark?
Not a chance.
All right. I hand my mother the cup.
She doesn't say anything to you. She just nods.
And then I will walk with as much of an unscared look on my face as I can.
Certainly.
And I will follow Morganath.
What does Elara fear? She doesn't have a fear passion, I looked. So what do you fear?
That the Lunar Empire will come back and wreak havoc and kill my family and burn our lands. And we will no longer have this beautiful valley to live in.
Stepping inside the Riddle is an act of courage, especially after being told for so many long years that it is death to enter the Riddle. There are no lights. You've heard that tale too. No fires will burn inside the Riddle. Torches snuff themselves out. You have nothing but stone and blackness to court you as you enter. Feeling around here on the spaces, you get hold of one of the walls. The walls of the Riddle, the ones you cling to because it is your only way to move forward, are not smooth. They were made, created, worked centuries ago. It is not known or said how long the Riddle has been here. Perhaps for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Who could tell? But while you walk your path through it, you are assailed by a vision of a fierce, bald woman, adorned in red, inscribed with so many different moon symbols. She rides upon a horse with waves of lunar soldiers behind her. You see her march through the Vale Gate, and behind her is a wake of fire. It consumes the waters of the river. It burns the forests. And there are few things other than screams of the dying for your ears to feast on. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite you, the player, to roll your power times 5. So take your power, multiply it by 5, and then roll under that. This will be a way for you to potentially conquer this fear you have.
All right, so I have to roll under 65. And I got a 55.
Fantastic. Okay, Morgan, I'm going to invite you to take the narrative here with Elara and tell me how Elara overcomes this fear.
I imagine that there is nothing that I can't do. Nothing that I can't do to stop this woman from harming my people. I plant my feet on the ground and just scream at her. Leave us alone! My hands are balled into balled fists, not balled themselves. They are balled into fists with the knuckles turning white. And after I'm done screaming at her, I can just feel everything, just all that fear and anxiety from being afraid, just let go from my body.
You feel it. You see it. Your hatred for the Lunars is deep. And the idea that they would come to the Vale and do this infuriates you. And that rage propels your voice upward, and like a wave, it takes the Lunar Army by surprise. She's repelled back until the image is shattered against the strong wall of the Riddle here, and you are able to continue forward. After stumbling for a time, you make out a dim light in the darkness ahead. It seems to flicker against the side of the Riddle walls here, and you follow it. It leads you down, your pathway cutting right each time, like a spiral. As you further your momentum, the light grows brighter. And as it does, it ends in a doorway, another stone square doorway, where Morgana is waiting. In the doorway there, she turns to you. 5 souls stir in their sleep inside you, and you must awaken each. 5 souls, 5 senses, 5 elements. Without the gifts these souls bestow, you can never be a true woman. She reaches out, and in a gesture you are not prepared for, she takes your face in her hand, comforting. A wave of this nurturing sense from the priestess washes over you. It is the balm your spirit, still anxious with fear, needs. These elements will come to you in the form of young gods, lovers, partners, sons, brothers. You may conquer each by knowing what he needs. It is in the knowing that your power lies. Remember your stories, Elara. You walk in the footsteps of the goddess. Remember to do as the goddess did, and you will come across safely. Now go. She steps out of the way, and you see that this doorway does continue into a tunnel beyond.
I just nod at her and go down that tunnel.
The darkness in the tunnel continues, but after a few steps, a pale emerald light begins to flicker on the walls. It leads you, just like the tiniest root below a plant. It leads you to something else. You start feeling grass under your feet. In your ears, the buzz of bees can be heard. Birds, then. You feel the first taste on your lips of spring. You just really tasted it for the first time several weeks ago when sea season began here. You have that immediate taste there, and the smells come afterwards. Flowers. You start seeing more colors develop as this tunnel gives way to a mountain walkway. The trees are bright and green, with boughs and branches stretching to and fro everywhere. It reminds you an awful lot of your stead, this space. And there are people here too, voices, aunts, other women you might call mother by respect, grandmother as well. And they're all here. The young, the old. Janira is here. She greets you as you walk. She says, Elara, you've made it. She comes over. You see that she's different than the last time you saw her. She's grown a little bit. Not taller. Perhaps her hips have widened just a tad. Her face has widened a little bit too. She seems a few seasons older. Take this. She hands you a small loaf of bread, and you can smell the fresh honey and feel the warmth of the bread on your fingertips.
I hold out both my hands and I take the loaf of bread and I taste it, and I can taste the sweet honey on my tongue as I swallow the bread.
Others make themselves aware to you as well.
And I feel alive. Springtime is my favorite season. It's rebirth and everything is new. And it just makes me feel giddy like I was when I was younger.
You get many gifts. The women here that are in this space, they treat you as an honored guest. You get fresh, sweet green water to drink. You get wonderful little sips of milk that have been spiced. You get cakes. Someone threads a beautiful charm into your hair. They give you gifts of corn dolls and all manner of tiny little trinkets to play with as you continue your walk. It's intoxicating, but not in the alcoholic sense. Everything here, all of your senses are peaked. As you said, spring is your favorite season, and it feels like everything has been turned up. The color, the freshness of the air, the sensations in your body, everything feels alive. Everything. You can feel that each blade of grass as it touches your feet, it doesn't tickle, but cushions. You can feel some of the tinier grasses get between your toes as you walk. As you're walking through this space, your feet are suddenly wet as a stream comes down from one of the sides of the mountain and makes its path through your legs and seems to go out of this space. This water rushes from behind you, and you get this immediate urge to follow the water.
I run my toes through the stream and let the water run up my leg. And I wade through the stream. I'm still naked, so but I'm wading through the stream and running my fingers through the water, and it feels really good.
It does. You're going to follow the stream?
Yep, we're on an adventure.
You follow the stream for some time and continue on down towards what seems like a much larger body of water. You see out before you the sea. You see beyond that sea there is an enormous mountain. Enormous, larger than Carofin, the great Carofin. It dominates the horizon. There is an urge inside your chest to get to that mountain. When the stream meets the ocean, you are taken aback by an immediate fountain that appears at its edge. And it starts slow around your knees and just seems to continue to rise and rise and rise, then to your breasts and to your shoulders, and then above your head. This beautiful fountain. And from within this fountain, a figure appears. Right there in the ocean, just at the edge of it. A handsome man. Blue-green skin glistening with the waters of the ocean and the salt therein. He is as you, wears only what he was given when he came out of the womb. He has a beard with a very long braid at the back of it, of the deepest sea green. And slowly the fountain subsides. His broad smile is inviting. And he says to you, "Where are you going, O woman of Earth? For you have reached the end of your domain and the beginning of mine."
I am taking myself wherever my heart wants me to go.
Fascinating. I am Zaramaka. Where does your heart wish you to go?
How close am I to him at this moment?
However close or distant you'd like to be.
I get fairly close, within a couple feet, so I can inspect him further, having never seen him before, and I'm sure he's a specimen of a man.
He is.
And being in this place and during this time, I feel alive and stirrings that I probably haven't felt as much previously.
Yes. You are probably on the precipice of those feelings. Maybe still a mystery, but very close to him. And being closer to him seems to bring some of those senses, the natural human senses of smell and his aura. He's as attractive as the most beautiful sea might be.
And sure, we have attractive young men in the stead and in the village, but it's different.
Well, this man is made of pure water.
Yeah.
Definitely different.
I kind of stuttered, but what was your question again?
I was asking where you were going.
Oh, maybe you can help me. I feel conflicted about where my path is going, where my journey is going to lead me, for my family, for myself. I feel tugged in multiple directions.
He nods. The sea goes in many directions as well. This I understand. You came to the edge of your domain with intent, though. I watched you walk from the stream to the edge here. He turns around and points to the mountain. Is this where you were going?
It draws me near. I feel like I might find answers up there.
Truly.
I hope.
Well, I can bear you across these waves, woman of Earth. I can carry you for all eternity and never tire. Yet what will you give me for my labors?
What is it that you seek?
Oh, he smiles. I desire to hold you aloft, to bring you to the mountains and show you the way the sea holds the earth.
She looks a little confused.
He continues, come into my arms, lie with me, beautiful lady. Love me, and I will fill your breasts with milk, your womb with life-giving waters, and the tides of your blood. You will possess the secrets of renewal and rebirth.
Oh, good sir, that is a very tempting offer. But will a kiss suffice?
The water shimmers for a moment. A kiss, while a wonderful beginning, is not truly complete. Such a task to bring you all the way to the mountain. It is a far distance, beautiful lady.
But I'm not yet ready to bear anyone children.
Okay, so systematically, this is what we do now.
Uh-huh.
You can, it's a valid option for you to potentially bargain, charm, fast talk, etc. Those I think are within the grasp of our current conversation. I don't think intimidate is part of it right now.
No.
But yeah, if you want to roll any of those social-based skills in an attempt to perhaps convince Zaramaka that a kiss will suffice, then I am happy to let you roll.
So I am feeling inspired because I want to get to the top of that mountain, but I don't want to be told that I need to give a part of myself to something just to get to the top of that mountain. I want to be in control of that.
Okay. So go ahead and roll your Earth Rune.
And so my Earth Rune is at 60. And I get a 51.
Okay. So go ahead and make a charm roll. Or bargain perhaps might be best at this point. I'm happy to do whichever you feel you're best at.
I am definitely better at charm.
Okay.
Because my bargain is at 15.
Yeah, so take 20% and add on to your charm roll and go ahead and roll.
And I get a 32 out of 55.
After some back and forth, Zaramaka extends his hand to you and says, very well, a kiss will do. I will bear you all the way to the mountain. Beautiful woman of Earth.
Yeah, and I will kiss him. And I feel having never kissed anybody before, even in my non-dream life here, like wherever I am. Definitely feel that, that flutter of a first kiss you get, like your stomach just kind of coils up and you just can feel all that tension and where you want more, but you stop yourself.
Yes, I would say that Zaramaka is good to his word. He does not continue the kiss any longer than you are interested in it. It is a rush of many feelings, but it does come with the understanding that you controlled this situation. And in some ways, that is important to you. You land on the mountain after Zaramaka traverses the sea, holding you aloft, albeit grumbling a little about missing out on his opportunities. But you land there on the mountain. It is a perfect cone reaching up into the sky. Atop it, you see that there is a golden radiance. It shines like the sun. It makes an impressive target for you, especially someone who is so well gifted when it comes to the bow. That is where you need to be.
I start making my way up a path that might have been made by deer or other such creatures.
Certainly. You make your way up. After a time, you come to a plateau on this mountainside, a wide, flat place where it seems that farmers have tilled it. You recognize it immediately as a plateau farm. It does seem, though, just as you stare out over it, that the soil here is not right. It's dry, dusty, and baked from all the heat. Up ahead of you in that field, there is a lone figure standing in it. You can see he's tall, thin, a young man with flowers in his hair. There's a big bag of seed that he carries, and he is scattering it to and fro here on these tilled lines.
I make my way over to him, carefully avoiding any rocks that might be sticking in the field, and to not cut my feet.
There are certainly several. You make your way over. He hails you, raises a hand. Where are you off to? He looks around down at the ground, sort of absent-mindedly.
Well, I'm off to wherever my heart carries me.
Well, that is a much more pleasurable place to be than I am.
Oh, I see that you're having some trouble with your field.
He rubs his head. You can see that he is sweating from having worked in this field for some time. I cast my seed here, but to no avail. The earth is unyielding. Nothing will germinate or take root. Nothing will grow. I have no means to irrigate it, and I have no cattle to offer as sacrifice.
Oh. I'm sorry to hear about your troubles. Is there anything I can do?
I don't know. Perhaps.
I reach down and I pick up the dirt and run it through my hands.
It is definitely dry and brittle. It does need some sort of... needs something to grow. It's there when you're running the dirt through your fingers. You remember that Ronalda agreed to give her waters to germinate Flamal's field. You remember your mother telling you this tale. And that man, perhaps he is Flamal.
I think, are you Flamal?
He brightens. Indeed.
And you are the person that the great Earth Mother, Ronalda, gave her waters to.
I have not seen her. Do you know this mystery?
Of where she is?
No, of the water.
I remember the stories that my mother told me when I was growing up about Ronalda and what she did for our people and how she helped the other gods and goddesses and how she waters his field.
Yes.
And she says, I think I can help you.
He brightens again. How?
I can offer some of my water for your field.
He steps back. Please.
And I say to him, if I water your fields and help, can you direct me on how I can continue my path up the mountain?
I would escort you myself.
I brighten with it. Oh, wonderful. So what I do next is that I will take some of the blood of myself and I will give it there, and I will place my hand down on the dirt.
You take from yourself and you place it on the dirt where Flamal's seeds have been placed, and the soil suddenly darkens. It becomes a deep, ruddy color, and it immediately becomes verdant the seeds germinate and sprout. And when you take your hand away, your water has given this field life. It grows an entire row of Flamal's seeds. He is ecstatic. Blessed life giver, forever I promise the secret of my seed to you, and entrust all my seed to you that you may make it come alive. He weeps. And when he is done, he extends his hand to you and looks towards the path that leads up the mountain.
And I take it.
Okay. So Flamal leads you up the mountain. I'm going to have you roll against your fire rune.
Okay. That is wonderful. I got a 90 out of 10.
Okay. So eventually, under an auspicious azure sky, studded with twinkling golden stars, you come to a palace gate, the court of the bright Emperor Yelm. If there is the idea in her head of what a beautiful palace would look like, it is that to a degree you cannot truly comprehend. Marble and gold inlaid workings, beautiful glass stained with different colors that shines out from this space. There is something inside that palace that is so bright and so warm that even the tiniest cracks in doorways exude this aura. The guards here, dressed head to toe in resplendent armor, golden armor. There are golden hooved horses that move about the palace grounds. These proud griffins that you see as you walk the halls. For the palace doors are wide open to you. And as you move through the palace, you come to the main hall. A beautiful hall of gold and topaz with amber accents. Those guards in their armor give way to the being that sits on the throne here, Emperor Yelm. He looks to you as you enter. Such beauty. You hear his voice, resonant, filled with an auspicious and dominant candor. You will make a welcome addition to my halls. I assume you can cook? Weave? You know the ways of raising children. These tasks are too menial for the hands of my empress, but I will make you mistress of the loom house, the nursery, and the kitchen. The others here shall know you are my favored concubine and obey your commands.
Emperor Yum, that is a wonderful proposal, but I don't think I'm the one to care for your children and cook your food. There are far better others to serve that purpose.
Well, I could not believe anyone would deny me directly. And as for someone being far better, why don't we have a few tests to see who is best? If it is as you say, that someone else is better, then you may leave this house. You get whisked away by a group of assistants, and you get placed into a small antechamber where there are what look like cooking pots and food to be prepared. There's a list of items which need to be cooked.
Well, my mother never liked me in the kitchen. Even at home, I was known for burning items. I make a mean soup, though.
So for the challenge of the kitchens, you're looking for that skill that we used during the marriage episode, which is...
The managed household.
Manage household, yes. So show me how you manage Emperor Yelm's household.
I'm going to burn it down. Oh. Of course. I get a 1 out of 45.
Oh, fantastic. So that is a critical success. You could have done no better. You set to the task. And originally you set to it with the idea likely that someone will surely be a better cook than I. I spent my time among the fields and among the hills. I don't know any mystical or mundane extras to put in such a recipe. And so you just sort of begin casting things about to try to create this dish that has been asked of you. During this time, you hear a loud voice in the main hall, which is viewable through the windows here. You can see what's going on here. You see a young man arrive, and he challenges the emperor to a contest, a dance. And they get up and they dance. Yelm dances for his court in a very proud and exacting manner. It shows his imperial self. This upstart, this other man, they're calling Orlanth, does a war dance, and he shakes the ground in the courtyard here. The judges, afterwards, because of course, if it's a contest, it must be judged, they declare Yelm the winner. You finish up your food, it's brought to the emperor. And as it is, this upstart, this young man, looks in towards the kitchen at you. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't reveal his emotional state other than frustrated at losing. But the food that you cook for Yelm, the emperor adores. He tells you how good it is. He raves to his court that he has found an amazing woman who knows the kitchen and how it should be prepared. You move, along with the assistance of some of Yelm's court, to another portion of the hall here, where there is a loom set up, a beautiful one. And there are many people working at this loom in stages. And Yelm says to you, certainly the loom is known to you, thread work, weaving. Craft me something that I will remember you by. Something no other could. So dependent upon your skills, just in case, in the grand scheme of things, Elara wasn't made with craft weaving, I'd accept a roll against your earth rune for this.
All right. We got an 81 out of 60. I'm not weaving anything.
Oh, you are. You're just not weaving what you want. As you weave this blanket, perhaps, you never really did more than look at the weavers in the Vale for, well, you were astonished by what they could produce, but you didn't really spend time there. During this time period, though, this man comes back, this Orlanth, and he returns to challenge Yelm to a contest of magic. And he does notice you where you sit, but his eyes turn eventually to focus on his competitor, Yelm. And there is a great mystical display. Yelm shows himself as a god who can control the cosmos by altering the very weave and fabric of the universe around him. a stunning display. Orlanth becomes a whirlwind. His body is consumed outside and in by a rapturous tornado that whips things off the walls here. And then he coalesces back out of that cloud into his body. Again, the judges vote for Yelm. And as this Orlanth leaves, his eyes light with electricity, with a paint bucket full of rage across his face, having lost yet again. It's next that they bring you to a section of the court where many godlings rest in their beds, 4, 5, 6 of them. These are Yelm's children, the ones whom he spoke of, the ones he needs you to care for. And there are many ways to care for children. Swaddling them, certainly, feeding them. In what way do you think Elara would attempt to care for these godlings?
I would probably pick them up and rock them. I didn't have any siblings of my own, so I don't have that understanding of, sure, I've helped care for some of the stead's other children. I've never been assigned to care for an infant, but I probably know the basics. But I enjoy rocking babies.
You do. You shift them back and forth.
I do.
And you do your best to entertain them, to keep them from crying by focusing your energy into them. So I'm going to have you roll an appropriate passion. Because what I feel is you are doing your best to love them as if they were your family. And so I'm going to ask you to roll your love passion.
I have a 79 out of 60.
Okay. Many of these godlings do not take to the rocking. Perhaps you were a little too vigorous with the shaking. But either way, during such time, Orlanth returns. And when he does, he challenges Yelm to a contest of music. Yelm is more than happy. He lifts his divine harp, one tinged with beauty and gold, and he plays the most illustrious sound you have heard. It captivates the court. It even quiets the children. Orlanth's retort is slightly different. From his bag, he removes a smaller bag, one with many strange wood reeds attached to it. He clutches it under his arm, and with the seriousness only known to the fiercest warriors, he stares across this challenge field in the courtyard of Yelm, and he begins to inhale and then blow as this bag expands under his arm. And the sounds that come out of it are just the most, well, they're the strangest thing you've ever heard. There's a bit that sounds like someone humming, but it's irrational and edgy in all these spaces. It makes the most raucous and discordant sound here in this hall as Elara experiences bagpipes for the first time. The entire court bursts into laughter, much of it at Orlanth. But some laugh with him at Yelm. What do you think Alara's reaction is?
I think the sound of the bagpipes would, the deep rhythmic sound that comes out of them
Mhm.
makes her feel like she's standing against the sea and watching a storm come in, and it excites her.
Orlanth is not the winner of this contest either. And while the bagpipes turn to a cloud around him, disappearing into the court and the mystical edges of it, Orlanth walks past you, and he pauses just for a moment and says, I see that I am not the only one who enjoys music, the rhythm.
Oh, I am no dancer, but I do enjoy a good melody. And what you played was wonderful. I'd never heard anything like that before.
Well, if you enjoy the music, when I return, I will promise to share it with you. I would take you any place you desire.
But I don't know what it is I desire. Or maybe I do and I just haven't discovered it.
He nods. Next time. He steps out of the hall. This ruckus that Orlanth caused did end up getting a few people bumped and bruised. Nothing terribly difficult. But the Emperor does draw you to some of them and asks for your hand in assisting them in healing. Yelm shows you the members of his court who have been hurt. He asks for your assistance to show the court that you can treat wounds, help the sick. So this is a first aid roll.
And can I use Runic Inspiration?
So you've already used Runic Inspiration once this session. It's only available to you once per session.
Oh, okay. Then never mind. I won't be using... There will be no inspiration.
Not
Runic or
one.
otherwise. Okay, so I will use first aid. Oh, and I get a 17 out of 25.
Fantastic. You move through the figures of his court that are there. 6 of them. And you assist them as best you can with their wounds. The court assembles again as this Orlanth has returned. Yelm asks what contest, and Orlanth says weapons. Yelm agrees. He reaches behind the throne and he produces a bow, one which fires golden arrows. And shot after shot, he strikes Orlanth in the heart. You hear and those arrows sail past you, each one radiant and golden. When they strike Orlanth's breast, they fizzle and die. They turn black, withering, leaving Orlanth unhurt. Orlanth, in turn, produces something. It is long, easily as long as his arm. It's wide, a broad sword. It roils with dark tendrils, which seem to pluck at the edges, and he moves closer to Yelm. There is something inside you that wonders what this object does. And then without warning, Orlanth stabs Emperor Yelm. The mountain beneath you shakes. The floor of the hall shatters into pieces as golden walls around you begin to tumble. The radiant face of Emperor Yelm goes pale, and you see him fall and hear his screams as hell swallows him. There's much chaos and confusion that follows. You are suddenly again in your bedchambers. Here, a room provided to you. There are many handmaidens about. You know all of their names: Kesta, Berlintha, Mahome, Istenna, Arna, and Jira. Somehow you know that they are all your handmaidens, and even parts of your skin seem to be anxious at the moment. They're packing. They're packing to leave the palace as the worlds have turned upside down. Everything is packed and ready, except for the great loom, which is too large or heavy to pack. The door bursts open, and Orlanth stands in the doorway. Many of the Emperor's former guards and servants are following him, not in anger or protest, but they seem to be following him. He reaches out for you. We must go. This palace will not survive.
But go where?
Out of this place, to safety. Do you care for the loom? I will shrink it.
Oh, I do not.
Leave it to this broken place. He surges forward towards you and becomes the purity of air. His body discorporates around you, and you are lifted off your feet and out a window which shatters after you. Yelm, his cries still in your ears. You see around you, Orlanth has carried you and these friends, these handmaidens that you've become accustomed to, and you surge down towards Gada, towards the very earth itself, that primal earth. Your memories then become discorporated. They become tough to touch. It is as if you're experiencing them through someone else's eyes. The world is covered in storm and darkness. The gods of shadow and the underworld flee to the surface to escape Yelm and his radiant light. You know in your heart that Yelm is imprisoned in hell. Winter marches irrevocably down from the north, bringing a chill to everything that you interact with. You see yourself, or is that Ronalda? You see yourself with Yelm. You see yourself with Orlanth. You see yourself as his lover, his wife. You see Ronalda as the mother of his children, his queen. But as these memories come and go increasingly, so does Orlanth. He does not stay with you. He leaves to fight endless battles. And what he leaves you is his hall to rule. You come to claim his lands. You are the one others come to hear what must be done. Winter is falling. The darkness deepens, and everything and everyone is dying, following Yelm into the underworld. And troubling visions show that Flamal is missing. The children of the stead here weep because they are hungry and cold. And worst of all, a great enemy has appeared on the land. Nantraya, who you feel once came for you, once tried to espouse his love for you, and you turned him away. Because clearly you were not prepared. You were not ready for that. he was not the one. You sit there in the high seat of this amazing hall of Orlanth. The room is empty. The fires burn low. How do you feel?
I feel powerful and in control, but not in control because the people are suffering and I want to help.
From the shadows, a man approaches you. Argan Argar, a man you know, one of Shadow. Handsome, very dark, black hair and eyes. You feel as if he is a bedmate, perhaps, of Ronalda, but you do not feel the same connection. He says, "My beautiful queen, what troubles you?"
What troubles me is the current state of our land. Our people suffer. While Yelm is leading others to the underworld, Flamal is missing, so our lands are not being tended and fertilized. What can I do?
I agree. The world is dying. My mother taught me, oh my queen, never to face the enemy head on, and never to look for solutions in the light. If the enemy is too great for your strength, lead it into darkness. Make an ally of the shadow. Make deception your cloak. Learn not to see and do what is obvious. Listen for what is hidden. For the opponent, the enemy can see, it can attack. The unseen opponent is unassailable.
But how do I do that? How do I lead them into the dark?
Your handmaidens approach you. Kesta says, "Everything around us is dying, my queen. What if Nantria believed you to be dead as well?" Jera speaks up. "You could go to the house of your dread aunt. Not even Nantria would find you in the hall of Tycora Tech."
I could, but I don't want to be dead.
Argan speaks up. No, not dead. A funeral procession. We could make the enemy believe you are dead, and so that he would stop hunting you. It might give us a chance for these people to survive.
Well, whatever my people need, I am there for them. Whether that means spilling my own blood to ensure their safety. Well, whatever their needs, I'm here.
I will arrange a funeral bier. The procession. We will take you out. And as we march towards your aunt, when the enemy is upon us, you will fool them. And then they will leave this land thinking you are dead.
Make the necessary arrangements.
Argan Argrar nods. And that is what they do. The procession is unlike any you have been a part of. They load you on top of a funeral bier, and they carry you out of Orlanth's hall. And it isn't too long until the enemy, that wolf, comes. And his forces slow the procession long enough to inspect the bier and the body on top. And so I'm going to have Elara make me a charisma ×3 roll.
All right. So I'm going to have to beat 51 or be under 51, not beat 51. And I get a 67.
The inspection goes on for some time. Nantria's gravelly voice eventually says,
"Truly, she is dead."
The enemy moves away, back into the darkness, but it leaves you with a terrifying feeling. Your limbs suddenly feel very cold. You can't move your shoulders or your hips anymore. Even your fingers have gone white. You don't feel your heart beat in your chest. In this cold winter, this damned darkness, no breath leaves your lungs. The procession continues, and you begin to see the destination. The Riddle again, that black square gate in the cliffside. And you start to remember that your name is Elara, and that those memories must have been from someone else. They carry you inside, walking those spiraling halls down. It seems to go on forever. You reach a cavern, so dark, so black, you can no longer see the processional. A veil has been placed over your face, as any true funeral procession would, and that veil is pulled off. And you hear a voice from that darkness say, "She sleeps. She is not dead." Faint lights appear around you, and you see Morganath again. Or is that Tykora Tech? Your cheek is stroked very gently by icy fingers. You can feel her breath on you. It smells like the grave. The veil is replaced, and you lie there in darkness. I'm going to have you roll against your darkness rune.
I get a 46 out of 10.
Okay. You're not really sure how long you stay there. The shroud is pulled back, and a shimmering figure approaches you. You still unable to move. This figure is humanoid, but it is difficult to discern their features. They come close, and for a moment, you smell the spring again, the water. This shimmering figure places a kiss on your cheek, and your lungs fill with air. Lights appear. You are in a cavern. There are many former women of the Vale here, still wrapped in their winding cloth from when they are buried. This light that you can see, just this ghostly fairy light that exists here, it does illuminate a pathway, a tunnel forward, out of this place.
I slowly get up and test my balance on the ground, and then I will walk carefully towards the path out, following the fairy light.
You walk through another square gateway carved into this wall. It leads to a vast and empty space. The ceiling is domed. The floor is as smooth as glass. You see tiny black and white stones that fleck the ground, and it reminds you of a summer twilight in the Vale. There's light here, pouring forth from Yelm, but now he is just the golden sun, and not the radiant emperor. That sun hangs there, suspended in the midair of this great cavern. Beside it, you recognize a constellation, one that the Heraborn and Colomar tribe have honored for ages, and that is Orlanth's Ring. A green star, and then 7 orange ones. Beneath them, you see an enormous figure, a tall, broad woman, skin deep green. The great goddess Ernalda sits at her loom. You see 6 handmaidens surround her, bare-breasted, jeweled, happily helping her. Ernalda's skin is the pale green of spring, your favorite season. While these strands from the loom, white strands of silk, are arriving. They're coming from the darkness beyond. You cannot entirely see where they are coming from. The goddess Ronaldo looks at you, and then she slightly tilts her head. We could use another pair of hands. You hear her voice echo through the room.
My queen, I would be ever so honored, but I don't know if I'm the one. If it is your will, I will do what you need.
You do not need to be the one. We give birth to time here. That is how the loom works. You have a birthright. You have something to claim here, should you so choose.
I run my fingertips over the loom, the string from the loom, and I can feel the life coming off of it. And how that could be me, helping Arnalda weave time and fate and life.
You see things within this thread. You see things, objects, animals, people. All of them are weaved from this silk thread, which beyond the loom comes from an immense spider. Arnalda takes it all the same. You came here to die, but your immortality lies in the power to weave the threads of life. You are the loom in which eternity is reborn. No woman on my earth is forced to follow any path.
So I can forge my own?
Of course.
But I want to do what will most honor you and my family and the other goddesses.
Ronaldo smiles. She has not taken a hand from the work at the loom, but she gives you a moment more of her direct attention. And she says, I give life to every living thing. I am its root, but you are allowed to grow in it in any way you wish. Every tree grows in such a way. The branches diverge. While every woman is descendant from me, they all walk their own path. There are as many paths in this life that I have taken lovers. She smiles.
What if I feel I best serve under your sister?
Marangor, she would be blessed to have such a smart and ready daughter. We are sisters. We share much in common. She turns back towards the loom for a moment, and then you see her pluck just the tiniest of strand away from one of her handmaidens. And as she turns to you, she wraps it up into a very small form, almost like a doll, and she hands it to you. Both of those large green hands extend out towards you. Take this. You will always be my daughter. And when you are ready, in the future, my sister will show you how to put this to use. She serves an important role. She protects me, just as you will.
I take the items and I bow deeply to Arnalda and her hands, and I take her hands and bow down and kiss her fingertips in reverence. You are most wise, Mother.
Arnalda turns back to the loom. As she does so, the room fades, and you are again in a tunnel. There is a woman there with you, though. Not Arnalda, not Morganeth. A different one. A proud woman. You can see by the way she stands, strongly built, noble features, beautiful braided hair to her waist. She reminds you of your mother. She looks like her. At least a little. I am Ivarn, daughter of Jericente, mother of Galanth. mother of de Cervantes, wife of Hort. She smiles. I am your mother, and mother to all Hortling women. I welcome you to your people. You see that there's snow in her hair and a bit of frost on the fur cloak that she wears. But as she steps closer, the frost and the snow melt. Like you, I slept a sleep like death. I had given all I had, not to create new life, but to keep hunger and hurt and loss from extinguishing it. This is the burden of our power. For some will give life, but we are all responsible for it. She gestures towards the other end of the tunnel where seemingly she came from. Death is always out there. It devastates our world sometimes. You save the world by either creating life or keeping it alive. Continuity, tradition, Elara. These are your blessings and your burdens. From darkness and death, walked the dawn, and walked spring. Now you walk forth as the woman you are to be. She gestures to the tunnel and walks with you.
I walk with her, thinking about the words that she has spoken.
You walk together. She explains the seasons of the year, how they reflect the ages of the gods, how each year the world withers but is reborn again. She explains that the 280 days of the year are also the 280 days required for a woman to conceive and carry a child to birth, that it was necessary for many women to go through this process, and that the power to give life is the deepest magic in our world. And because of that magic, 10 times every year, you will tithe for it. You will bleed in sacrifice to Analda. Just as you get to the entrance of the riddle, the woman fades. She fades into another image, replaced by your mother and many other mothers from the stead who wait for you here at the edge of the door to embrace you and welcome you into the Heraborn. And that is where I'm going to call this episode to a close. And so I want to thank Morgan for playing Elara tonight and going through her riddle. It was unique in its own right. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we will see you next time.